News, traffic, weather, sports. The KDKA Afternoon News. News Radio 1020 KDKA.
Welcome back to the KDKA Afternoon News. I'm Bill Rakoff. Big announcement out of Harrisburg today, and it's a follow-up to a story that we talked about with our friend Adam Kirk just a few weeks ago, the use of breathalyzers in DUI arrests. We talked about the questionable accuracy of those breathalyzers, particularly if they're not calibrated correctly. Well, state police comes out with an announcement today, says effective today, we're not using them anymore either. You talked with state police today, and what do they have to say about it?
Well, the bottom line is Trooper Adam Reed said they're not going to use them until it's decided whether or not they're going to be banned statewide for all police. Now, that is going to work its way up to the state superior court, and it could be a Dauphin County judge's local ruling could be overturned there, or it could be upheld. So until that happens, he says they're not going to use them statewide. And, you know, there are a couple detriments and a couple good things that could come out of this either way.
So refresh, because we did talk about this, I guess, about a month ago now. The initial decision, kind of explain how we got to this point today.
Well, basically a DUI attorney got breathalyzer tests thrown out in Dauphin County because a judge determined they're not accurate over a certain level. That's 0.15. And they're not calibrated for that level. So he said, well, that we can't determine that the machines are accurate, so we're not going to use them for any severe DUI cases in the state. So now Pennsylvania police have taken it a step further and said not only are we not going to use them for the most severe DUI cases, we're not going to use them at all.
And now, so what they have to rely on is what we said, you've got to go out and get the blood test done to prove it accurately, right? Right,
and he said, and the trooper, Adam Reed, said basically it's going to take longer, and there's going to be more paperwork involved, more people involved, and that could slow the process down.
Some counties have a phlebotomist on staff, for example, at their booking center. It's a jail. Others, you may have to take them to the local hospital. So time frame is going to vary. The breathalyzer test is quicker because it's instantaneous, but a blood test does take, depending on where you send it, and again, it's going to vary. It can take a couple weeks. But the end result will still be the same.
So bottom line, a metropolitan area like this, you can run them to the hospital. You got a phlebotomist there. They do it. Or, you could have the blood test done. Now, DUI checkpoints, another matter. They do blood tests on site, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I spoke to the Pennsylvania DUI Association, and they said, and they work with police for these local DUI checkpoints and for the roving patrols that they do. And they said in both cases, there's always somebody there doing a blood test immediately, because under state law, you have to be tested within 2 hours of your arrest in order for that to be accurate and be usable in court. So they make sure that they do it on site, or in the case of the roving patrols, the person is arrested and directly taken to a hospital. Here in Allegheny County, it's not a problem because there's a hospital every 5 feet, it seems here. But, if you go into these rural areas, what the trooper was getting at there is there are times like New Year's Eve and others when there are a lot of arrests in a very short amount of time. And those blood tests have to be done within 2 hours of the arrest. So if you're arresting a ton of people...
And, by the way, those phlebotomists, might be doing other emergency work for patients who come in for medical reasons. So it's like, take a number, get in line, we'll get with you.
Bingo. So there's still the question as to, and the state police are very confident that this isn't going to happen, but I'd say there's still a question as to whether or not people are going to be getting off the hook because they're waiting 2 hours in an emergency room, because that's where they're taken, to the emergency room. And I'm telling you, if there's a gunshot wound victim in front of you, he's going to get attention before the DUI guy.
And that's KDKA Adams Kirk bringing us up to date on the story. Now, joining us on the 84 Lumber Project Professionals Newsline, a couple of experts in the field, local attorneys Edgar Snyder and Phil DeLucente joining us. And Mr. Snyder, I'm going to start with you first of all. Thanks for joining us. But what does this decision from the state police mean as far as DUI defendants are concerned in your view?
Well, I don't think that this means that anybody's really going to get off the hook. I agree with you that if you had some emergency and that there wasn't somebody to take blood, but I don't think that's usually the case. I think in one sense, it's probably going to increase the number of people that get arrested and charged because breathalyzers don't go into drugs. And when you start doing blood tests on everyone, obviously you're going to probably create a situation where there's more people that are found guilty, not of drunk driving, perhaps of driving under the influence of drugs, which is very difficult to say. But I don't think it's a problem where people are really going to get off the hook. I just think it creates more of a problem, and it's clearly understandable. When I started doing that kind of work, and I haven't been doing criminal work for a long time, but when I started doing criminal work in 1983, when they changed the statute, we used to win cases all the time on defective breathalyzers where they weren't calibrated right. And I think the state police, what they did here, under the law now, if you're over 0.15, if you're 1/6 and more, they've created new penalties, which means that you wouldn't be able to get somebody that was severely drunk if the machine that they were using, the intoxilizer machine, didn't work. So I don't think anybody's going to be escaping on this. I just think it's creating more of a hassle. And I also saw in that same article that I read in the newspaper that the Philadelphia police said they're going to continue to use breathalyzers. Now, maybe they don't use that machine, so that may be, the reason that they're going to continue to use breathalyzers.
Phil Lucente, who is currently does a lot of criminal work in the area. You agree pretty much with Mr. Snyder and his opinion?
Yeah, hi, Edgar. Hi, Bill. I can't agree more. And, in fact, the opinion is the Commonwealth versus Schilt opinion. And Edgar's right on point in the sense that this is a gentleman that January 2 years ago was in a creek, state police trooper come upon him and gives him the breathalyzer. And I think everyone is missing the point here in the public, not on the radio or lawyers, but you hear this case that it's going to invalidate all of the breathalyzer tests, and that's just not true. I think the state police are erring on the side of caution, and they're going to wait for the Supreme Court to eventually get this. And that case goes to the mere fact that the calibration for those types of machines go from 0.05, 0.10, and 0.15. The problem in the Schilt case is he was somewhere in the areas of a 0.208. And to that end, they determined that even the Commonwealth's own witness, their expert, Dr. Faulkner, that, yeah, in fact, after it goes past the 0.15, we really don't have any type of accuracy. So Dr. Messman, the defense expert, on the other hand, agreed with that and went a step further and said, not only is it not going to that level, but they're also not, under the PennDOT law, they're not using the correct data points for reliability. And that's where this is coming. So PennDOT regulatory requirements require that a manufacturer of the breath test device have a uncertified simulator solution that is not made by the manufacturer. What does that mean? It just means someone independent of that manufacturing company needs to produce that and test it. And in this case, they didn't do that, and now they're suggesting, at least this Dauphin County Court, that it's going to invalidate them across the state.
And by the way, just to interrupt for 1 second,
sure.
I was talking with the investigator from my office that does our investigations and automobile accident cases and things of this nature. He's a former state police officer, and he said, I think that it's underway right now to be able to start changing the rules and the way in which they do these things. They're about to get these things calibrated, and they are going to become accurate, plus the fact at least the state police, from what he was telling me, they believe that this case, one, could be overturned rather quickly, but whatever it is, they're not going to just let this all die. I think that Phil is right. I think that the big point is, can people make some use of the fact that if they already had these tests and the intoxilizer wasn't accurate, but if it's accurate up to 0.15, don't you agree, Phil, that it would then involve the issue of whether or not he got a more severe penalty under the new law?
That's exactly right. And Edgar Snyder is the greatest personal injury lawyer in Pittsburgh, but he's also
that's not a paid advertisement.
But a lot of people don't realize this. He actually was a great defender of DUI cases. And 1547B, which ended up turning into 3802 now, the general statute is what he's talking about. And anyone who had a DUI, that's a huge issue. Not so much for the penalty as it is for the license suspension.
Right.
And And I can't agree more with him. And he knows as well as I, if you have a blood test taken, that is the most reliable. And
absolutely.
I've got to break it here, gentlemen, because we got to get the traffic and weather. If we go over any more, then I got to start charge advertising time. But hey, listen, both of you, Edgar Snyder, Phil DeLucente, it's a joy talking to both of you. I hope we can lean on you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling.
You betcha.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate your comments.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. KDKA News Time, 646.